What's wrong with being confident?
Welcome to the Art of Improvement. I'm here, of course, with Karen Klaus.
Hey, Giovanni.
And today, again, we have back with us April Ancira.
Thanks so much for coming. We learned so much about you so far, but I want to know more. I want to open up the box and find out more. We left last time talking about customer service, and we've talked about that before because it's hard to find these days. Anywhere you go, it's hard to find.
And what's interesting, I've seen her on Facebook actually answer and participating in conversations with customers on your Facebook page. So how long have you been on Facebook and you're very interactive with your customers?
I'm trying to think when I got my little happy birthday thing from Facebook saying, hooray, you've been here for this long and this many people liked you. This many people didn't. No, they don't say that. But I probably 8 to 10 years. How long has Facebook been out there?
Okay, so you've had it for a while then.
At least 8. Yes, I've had it for a while. And you know what's funny is sort of on Facebook, my approach is basically posting my life in general. It's not a whole bunch of business shout outs. I figure people want to know more about, okay, what's my friend doing in San Antonio? When they're ready to purchase a vehicle, they'll be like, oh, my friend April sells cars. I'll come and purchase one from her. So they don't want to see brick and mortar and what's going on with the latest Chevy, unless it's a Viper or something of that nature where it's, something pretty flashy. So I've been on there a while doing that, but I think my first adventures in social media customer service were on Twitter. The reason being is that I could put in Ancira, and in the advent of Twitter, there weren't as many Anciras as there is now. And so when I would plug in Ancira, I'd see anything anyone said about Ancira at all. And so actually one of my favorite stories that dates back probably about 8 years or so was I saw somebody whining about something with their vehicle. And I say whining the way I did because of the way the story ends.
Okay.
And I said, I apologize for your troubles. It may have been a GMC or a Chevy. Can I please help you? How can I help you? And so we ended up messaging each other back and forth on Messenger. Eventually, we got the problem solved. It actually wasn't anything to do with Ancira, which was the good news when we got down to the bottom of it. It was something with the vehicle. The vehicle hadn't even been purchased from us. It was something with the manufacturer that was an issue. And I was able to help and solve that. Well, then we strike up like a friendly relationship, me and this gentleman, just back and forth, because it turns out he's a businessman in San Antonio. And so it turns out that at the time he was the vice president of marketing of SeaWorld. So what happens next? We ended up doing a deal with SeaWorld where we gave away passes and we gave them a couple cars and whatever. So now what's going on? Well, the guy ends up finding a promotion of sorts in San Antonio, but it's sort of sideways. But he ends up being the CEO of the San Antonio Zoo. And so now what are we doing? Ancira has... we've sponsored their fish feeders. By the way, if you go to the zoo, you'll see our Ancira fish. I couldn't afford a habitat. Guys, the habitats are like $250,000. So I was like,
you got the fish feeders?
That's exactly correct. I was like, I'm sponsoring your fish feeders. And so they got all new fish feeders with Ancira all over them. But they have a couple of cars, and you'll see, I think it's, I can't remember if it's May or June. Oh, no, you know what? It's July that we're doing our promo with the zoo where you get a family 4-pack for a year when you buy a car from Ancira. And this gentleman's name is Tim Morrow. He would also be great to interview because what he's done with that zoo since he's been there is insane.
Great. We got to get Tim Morrow on here.
I know. You need to get Tim Morrow right now. He's just incredibly innovative with the things that he's done with the zoo, marketing wise. Kind of the zoo ended up being dormant a little bit. Nobody was talking about it, but now they have events at night called Boogie Nights when kids are out. Yeah.
My kids were there today.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Zoo La La. And then they have Christmas lights.
Love it.
We go to that all the time.
All Tim, man. All Tim.
Wow. We need to have Tim on.
You need to have Tim on. And that was the guy who was complaining years ago.
That's hilarious.
On Twitter, but I had no idea who he was. I just saw, I need to help this gentleman. And that turned out so well. And I love it when that happens. Because when somebody does that, I don't think they, at least at that time, didn't expect anybody to reach out.
Well, I was just going to say that.
I'm just complaining. Now it's a little bit different. They kind of hope to get somebody's attention, but at that time, it's sort of like folks just a little upset with their circumstances, and then you reach out and they're, wait a second,
somebody's the person that can help me.
Somebody's going to jump in and help me.
So what's interesting is you started helping people that was on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, but the culture of the company, like, I mean, you're big into customer service because I see you doing a lot of different social media.
Right.
How is it with the company culture and customer service?
Well, we try to push that, I guess, with the team. So basically, I would say it's almost a trickle down theory. We want to take care of our employees, right? And I even hate using the term employees. I prefer to call them team. Our team members. We want to take care of them. Usually, if they're happy. What's in this water? It's just so circa. Okay. Usually if they're happy, they'll extend those niceties to the customer. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it's very difficult. You run into a bunch of different personalities. You have to have the right personality on the front line that is talking to the customers, because they have what they call a bitchy resting face, right? And on occasion,
I'm writing that down.
No, one of my best managers, I promise you, I love him to pieces, and he is great with technicians. Amazing, right? Because they know him. When he talks to a customer writes me immediately, this guy seemed like he didn't even care. And I'm like, nope, that's just his face. But immediately I'll help them. And so it's not that he doesn't care. The gentleman actually cares a lot. I know, because I go back and forth with him. It is literally how he just comes off. So I think the first part is having the right people on the front lines addressing your customers. And then if you just extend the niceties and no finger pointing. I really can't stand finger pointing. I fell the other day in a restaurant. I'm not sue happy because I'm always paranoid about being sued myself for something silly, which I should tell you stories, and I will. But because of it, the guy said immediately, he is like, oh, well, you stepped wrong. What? What do you mean I stepped wrong? It had nothing to do with the big hole in your floor. I mean, my boots were slippery. I said, listen, my boots are slippery. It's not a big deal, and I'm perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. But the immediate feeling I got when he said I stepped wrong I was like, you just made me feel like an idiot in your restaurant, instead of like, is everything okay? How are you doing? And there's no place for that. And that doesn't, just say, oh my gosh, I am so sorry.
Right.
This happened to you. Just apologize immediately and go after the fix.
Right. If you can just,
even if it's not your fault,
front.
you don't even have to say, I'm sorry, I did something wrong. You're not admitting to something wrong. You're just acknowledging that the situation is inconvenient.
right.
But that's all about customer service again. Can you teach people that? Are there just some people that know it and some people that don't? Because I run into the don'ts all the time. And
Yeah.
it scares me. Is it the young people? Is it people that have not done a job that needs customer service? Why is it that we've lost that?
I think a lot of people are teachable. I really do think a lot of people are teachable, and it's set by example. A lot of times once I start doing something for a customer in front of somebody else, they tend to jump in, but they have to see it. You have to show them. You can't even tell them. The first step is telling them. The next step is showing them. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to see it in action. And it's really scary not to be able to. Role playing is even pretty good too, because then you get comfortable with the situation.
Right.
But not all situations are black and white. One of my favorite things is finding somebody who can operate in gray. So one of the things they talk about a bunch in some of the classes I've had is how do they pick astronauts for NASA? So they pick the cream of the crop, right? The best straight A's, best top of the class. They can handle being in tight, confined spaces alone for a super long time. But they found out that they had way too many people in this boat. Of all things, there's too many excellent,
Yeah.
right? There's way too many awesome people that like to be by themselves for long periods of time. That are incredibly intelligent. But what they ended up doing in order to select their final selection was finding out which ones could operate in gray. when they have an incident come up that's unexpected? Do you operate in black and white? Nope, sorry, this is how we do it. This is how we always do it. And this is the only way we're going to do it, or can you operate in
I
gray?
like that. I've
That
never
is
heard that.
amazing.
It is. I'm going to
Yeah.
use that on my Friday meeting now. That's what we're talking about.
That
My
is
Friday morning
amazing.
meeting.
Well, don't you hate it when somebody's like, that's not my job?
Oh gosh, drives me nuts.
What do you mean that's not your, it's real, like, you know, or someone says, hey, where's the service department? And they point. Can you please just walk them down to the service department? Can you just walk them over there?
I know.
So you know, just being able to operate in situations that are just not black and white and be able to accommodate the customer. So
I have a question for you. What's been the biggest challenge that you've had in your career?
I don't know.
Finding enough time.
You know what? Yeah, it's got to be finding enough time.
I was going to say, because you talked about Ironman, you talked about your family, you talked about traveling to classes, and you have children, little tiny children.
Yeah, little people.
How do you make all of that happen? Every single day, you know,
Yep.
I take my dad to eat lunch or dinner every day. I try to make him breakfast. I
don't
you
know if she does it either.
Well,
I mean,
I'm up all the time, and I think to myself, am I hurting my kids by not being with them? I think about that every single day, and then I spoil them. They're rotten. They're bad because I try to give
and
them.
then they yell at you.
They yell at me, and I'm like, what did I do wrong? I was just trying to make things fit
Well, you know
together.
what? I think that goes along with parenting in general. I remember the most liberating day of my life was the day I learned that my mom and dad were human beings too. Seriously. And that what they did with me, for me, no matter what sort of angst I had as a teenager or things that I thought they did wrong, they were always trying to do the best with what they knew. This is what they had dealt in front of them, and they're going to try to do the best that they can with that. Now I know that as a parent too. Like, you're just trying to do the best you can with what you know how to do, and I think that was a liberating day for me. And as long as my kids know that whatever I'm doing is the best that I can possibly do with what I have in front of me, with the job that I have and everything, then they'll grow up with the understanding and hopefully respect and appreciation of what I did, but I did it because for us. However, the same time, I'm extremely lucky. I am. I have mad respect for single parents. Mad respect.
That's me. Oh,
Mad respect. Because for me, I have to tell you, I do have babysitters on call. I have my mom helps me out too sometimes. So I'll be in the middle of a meeting downtown and I get a phone call or this one time. Okay, no, actually, I was in a meeting in Austin and I get a phone call from daycare. It's not an emergency. That's what they always start with.
That means it's really bad.
It's not an emergency, but, and they usually say one of Hope's little friends. No, but this time it wasn't one of Hope's little friends. But your daughter broke off a black crayon in her ear.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be there in 2 hours.
I was like, well, I'm in Austin, so okay, is there somebody? And I'm like, my husband's at work, my parents are out of town. I have no idea. But luckily in that situation, I called my husband because they wanted us to take her to the doctor. It turned out she like bruised her eardrum or something. And her excuse was she wanted to hear the music better.
I was supposed to put a crayon in it.
Right. So she put a black crayon in her ear. And my husband took her to the doctor. She's fine. So he took her back, right? She's perfectly fine and goes back to work. But in some cases, I've called reinforcements. I've called a friend. I've called a babysitter and then I will literally fax over or email over from wherever I am something that says it's okay for this person to take her.
Right.
I will take a double shot of my health insurance card and email that to the doctor as well. Thank God for the advent of technology.
I
right?
know.
Without
I know.
it. So those kinds of things, lots of support has been helpful for emergencies. The other thing is, since they are a part of the business, if I bring them with me to the office, nobody says anything.
You're the same way, though. That's good.
I like bringing my kids to the office.
They close deals left and right.
You know what? I put them in. I was doing interviews.
Yeah.
And I made my 3-year-old sit with me.
Perfect.
Now I have a whiteboard and she can draw on there and stuff like that, and she can sit there. But she's going to sit here and listen to me interview, talk to this guy or other vendors that are coming in. I like to have them there because, yeah, you think they're just coloring, but I feel like it'll just help.
Right.
teach them something.
Well, when we were kids, we'd be like, what does your dad do? I'm not really sure. He's just gone all day.
Yeah.
I think things are definitely trending in that way. Anyways, it's totally okay to have your kids because everybody who is a parent knows the struggles. I had a CEO recently tell me that his 4-year-old was in his budget balancing meeting. Like sitting on the floor and then she fell asleep and then it was great, but they're all talking numbers and nothing happened.
Right. So I won't kick my kids out of a meeting no matter what the meeting is. Like I just want them to be in it. So if it's
kind of awesome,
they
might pick up something.
Yeah, exactly. That's my
Absolutely.
point. Like I want them to know from the age of 3 or 4 or whatever that they might pick up something or learn something. So it doesn't really matter what the meeting is. It's not so important that I can't have my kids there. So I just have them sit in it.
Yeah.
So
Well, what about your mom? I mean, things have gotten easier because of technology, and I'm sure your network of friends has gotten bigger as you've had your children. Well, what was the situation like with you and your mom? Was she working at the same time?
My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She was a nurse before she got pregnant with me. And she was a stay-at-home mom, but she was on a lot of boards. So she was like on a nursing board, Habitat for Humanity for Women. So she was very community involved. But my mom was phenomenal. I used to joke that if I forgot my number 2 pencil for a Scantron exam, that she'd stop everything, buy some pencils, and bring them over. And she did. She absolutely did. My mom was the one who cooked the healthy meals at night, made sure we were at, all the practices we needed to get to. Just a sweet, thoughtful, charming, wonderful mom. Like, nicest lady on the planet. I've never met a nicer person than my mom.
I know. I sometimes think, how did my mom do it?
Right.
And my mom didn't work either, but I still think I had 5 sisters, 6 girls. What was
You don't have to work for it to be. As a matter of fact, my sister, she comes out in our Volkswagen commercials, but she's a stay-at-home mom as well with 3 babies, and they are little. And I think that's a tougher job than going to work.
Absolutely, it is.
You ever seen those little cartoons where it's like most people on Monday mornings, like, and they're hungover from the weekend or something, and it's Monday, I have a case of the Mondays, but then it's like a young parent, and it's like, it's Monday.
Yeah.
And they're all excited.
School starting.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife stays home with the 2 kids, and I mean one's in school, but I get left with the kids for like 3 hours while she goes to the salon or something like that. I'm
Right.
like, oh my
How many
goodness.
times do you call her?
What in the world?
And you think, and then how long have humans been doing this for? Hundreds of thousands of years. And then we're sitting here like, you think there'd be some tips
Right.
or something, a trick out
Right,
there.
and then I'm working, and I text her, and she doesn't text me back for like 2 hours or something. And when I talk to her, I'm like, "Why didn't you text me back?" She's like, "Well, I've been busy with the kids."
Right.
And then so when I'm by myself,
Yeah.
and then she can not that easy because you didn't text me back the whole time. I was, it's a little more difficult.
yeah.
It's the weirdest thing ever because like I've said, there's like, I don't know, 7 billion people in the world. So that's a lot of people having kids. And yet at that one moment of crisis, you in the house, you feel like this is only happening to you in this world.
And it couldn't be worse.
And it couldn't be worse. And nobody else could possibly know the exhaustion and stress you're going through at that moment.
And your kids are the worst.
And there's 7 billion people.
Yes, yeah.
And it's so weird. There's no other time where you feel more alone
And
sometimes.
You
So
said earlier, hey, why didn't somebody give us a tip? Because each one that has the tip is like, I'm going to let them suffer like I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that often. So
You'll pay the price just like you hurt me.
yeah.
So what is your position now in the company?
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
So I've sort of, it's sort of like I worked my way into stores and then worked my way right back out. And I say that I'm more in a dealer position now than I am in a day-to-day management position.
Okay.
So I go in when there's discussion of opening up a new store, location, make, manufacturer. I go in when we're going to make a big change or hire another general manager. I go in if there's talk of changing our 401k. So those, it's vice president, but it's also a catch-all. I'll handle an employee complaint. I'll handle a complaint from a customer. Or I'll even take people who are happy with us.
She doesn't get paid enough. Whatever you're
Right,
getting paid,
no.
she does not get paid enough.
No, I get paid. I'm probably overpaid.
Not
but
for all that work.
I do a lot of community stuff now, which is really exciting. And I describe it as if you've ever went to like Walmart or Walgreens at 3 a.m. on a Black Friday, waited 5 hours in line for the Furby your kid wanted, and you couldn't wait for them to open it, right? You're like, I spent so much hard work and I can't wait. And then you see the joy in your kid when they open it up on Christmas morning. And that is how I feel when I'm able to deliver in the community, right? So I ran for Woman of the Year for leukemia and lymphoma, and raising the amount of money I did then for them that year, whoever raised the most won is basically how it goes. Tricky little concept. So I like how that works. So when I got to that point, and of all the stories I heard from those that had suffered from cancer, lost loved ones, but then there was the successes and the new drugs coming out that could save so many lives. Oh, you do that, you raise that money and know that you're probably saving lives, feels like Christmas morning.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely does. And so that's why I can't help but keep going back. There's sort of an addiction to it a little bit.
No, that's good. That's good, because giving back, I mean,
Yeah, but people
It's-
are like, why do you give so much of your time? And they put it like it's hard for me. Like I'm it's something extra, but it's not. I'm addicted to it.
it's your reward.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a lot of reward in there.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to do for me.
So what kind of nonprofit work do you do right now?
Well, basically, I'm on 10 boards. But what I do uniquely outside of the general donations that Ancira does for 5Ks, golf tournaments, all that good usual stuff, is I pick one nonprofit every single year to throw all of my donors behind.
Nice.
And I do hit up iHeartRadio. So basically it started with the Salvation Army, and I did, I remember it was the first year of the Red Bucket Tour that they have. And I painted a little bucket and I raised some money and I got excited, and then I raised a little more the next year. But then Brighton asked me to run for their Queen of the Vine, and Brighton is a center for childhood disabilities from 0 to 3. And they come into your home for free if need be, or a scaled amount. And they're in your home as many times as you need, 5 days a week, 2 times a week, helping with whatever it is, autism, issues of brain disabilities, all sorts of stuff. And the competition there was whoever raises the most money wins. And then you're Queen of the Vine. And so I remember thinking I could only do like $14,000-$15,000. I was like, that's my max. I'm tapped out. $14,000-$15,000. I can't do anymore. And I ended up with $77,000.
Oh my God.
Right?
Wow.
They
And I was
loved you,
like,
I bet. They loved you.
well, for me, it became, again, addicting. You see this money coming in. I was telling a story about a little boy I had seen go through rehabilitation, and it was a beautiful story. Sad, but with a happier ending. And telling that story to so many people really resonated and brought the money in. So then guess what? Well, my grandmother ended up having ALS, was diagnosed with ALS. Wow. And I remember her saying, you need to run, walk, whatever for ALS. Well, yes, ma'am. And so that year, the goal was to raise enough money so I could cut the tape at the walk in front of her, which to the last minute, I was against Judy's joggers. My God.
Who's Judy?
I don't know.
but she had a lot of donors.
But she had a lot of donors. And I was sitting there like till midnight, like $100, $100. And I didn't have $100, so I don't know what credit card I was using. But I ended up like just barely being able to have the privilege, and it's one of my best memories is having my grandmother there, who's since passed away, but I cut that ribbon. There she is, great photo.
You were calling all your friends, having them donate.
Oh my, everybody. So I did that. And then from there, I've done several more, like I said, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, which ended up being $236,000. Wow. And again, I told him 50,000 was my max, and I ended up at 236.
Wow.
That's so great.
Oh, it was so much fun. But Boys and Girls Club has been one. Family Service is this year. Then cystic fibrosis. Like, I have one every year planned out for quite some time. And that's where I have a lot of fun, enjoy doing that.
So which one are you doing this year? What are you doing this year?
Family service.
Family services. Okay.
Yeah, family services. And I've been involved with them every year collecting backpacks over the summer.
That's so cool.
And the kids get really excited when they get really cool backpacks. So that's how I ended up meeting them originally, was through backpack collections. But their event is in November. It's a farm to market type of dinner. Tangi Patton, I believe, is a chair this year of the event. And so you just have like a whole bunch of farm to market type foods out there, and people are picking and having a good time. And I haven't been able to go because this is only the third year that they're going to be having it. And I've always had something at the exact same time. So, but this year I'll be selling a whole bunch of tables for them. That's the plan.
Cool. Hopefully Judy's not competing against you.
No, Judy's joggers. God bless Judy.
Nobody's running. Everybody's eating.
That was the big joke. I still go out to the ALS walk, and Judy's joggers. There you are. They still come out. Judy, unfortunately, has since passed too, but the team's still strong out there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's one of the other things I get to do is I'm a free MC, and most of them are, but some of them aren't. So I'm usually called for backup when an MC cancels. And so I'm a professional backup MC.
That's okay though. I'm sure people appreciate it.
Oh, I love doing it. I have a really great time. So that's it.
So now that you work in overseeing a lot of these stores and working with the stores, do you ever sometimes think, you know what, I wouldn't mind just going back and selling some cars because it was fun or working in service?
I think about it sometimes. I did have a lot of fun doing it. And sometimes I want to, just to make sure that we're still, I don't know what the right word is. And I wouldn't want to say systematically performing in the appropriate manner, but we're up to speed with how other folks are selling cars, that we're providing the best customer service, just to keep me on my toes. Right. I don't think I'd want to go back full time to doing it. But I do think I want to, in a onesie twosies kind of basis, just to make sure, okay, how are we performing here? How am I interacting with management when it comes to stuff over here? But I mean, well,
and also to show your family, your team, that you can do it too.
Yeah. Well, what if I can? No. The reason nobody brings me a deal is because I strip it immediately. There's nothing left in it. It's gone. There's nothing left in it anymore.
You're like, see, they bought it.
Yeah, no, it's not a problem, but it's gone.
When you were a good salesperson, right? When you were on the floor?
I thought so.
Really?
I thought so. I haven't asked others.
How did you do compared to the rest of the team?
I didn't have that much time to be compared, but I'd say I was smack in the middle.
You're smack in the middle?
Yeah, I was smack in the middle.
For a beginner, I would say that's way ahead of the game.
Right. Well, I was happy. I remember the first full month I did it, I sold 10, and the average in the United States is 8. So
yeah.
I was like,
that's not in the middle.
And I never used my last name.
You never did?
I thought, for some reason, it would be a disadvantage. What an idiot.
So you never use your last name when you're a salesperson?
I didn't.
That is awesome.
I felt, I don't know why I felt it would be a disadvantage, but I literally would just introduce myself as April every single time.
And you weren't on commercials back then?
No, I wasn't on commercials till I was like 24. And this was back when I was 21.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I had a lot of fun.
Again, proving it to yourself, right?
Right.
I did it on my own, Dad. Sorry.
And that had nothing to do with it. It's so funny that like people are like, yep, you got to, they do things intentionally to prove it to themselves, intentionally not work for their parents.
Right.
But I think I just wanted to know. I was just always curious. Let me check this out.
I like that.
Yeah.
You didn't even use your last name.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of goofy. So.
The hard way. Always the hard way.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming and talking with us on the Art of Improvement. I mean, we've learned a lot about April. I really wanted to know more about what you did and kind of your rise up in the business, in the family business, because everyone sees you on all the commercials. So thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. And
absolutely.
I guess we're going to be talking to Tim Morrow sometime too,
yeah,
right?
We got to.
We got to get him in here, and we'll talk about the zoo and all types of things. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening to the Art of Improvement.
Thanks for having me.